is Asya Ali Hodzic, and today I'll be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. The three main points that I want to talk about today is the history of the movement in the year 2020, and what the movement has done to change our society's way of life and thinking. Now, to jump right in, how would you feel if you weren't allowed to wear your hairstyle to school because the school board deemed it inappropriate? How would you feel if the administration didn't let you walk during your graduation unless you cut your hair? And how would you feel if you were suspended from your school just by the style of your hair? That is what happened to DeAndre Arnold, a young black man in Texas that was thrown against the face of racism. All that anger, disappointment, and despair that he felt is what people of color feel every day. The Black Lives Matter movement is a group of goal-oriented people who want to show the world that there is injustice within our community and that racism is still alive and well. They want to give a voice to the people that have been told to be quiet their whole lives. Though the BLM movement has brought into the spotlight mainly this year due to recent events, that is not necessarily when it started. After collecting information and learning about the history of the Black Lives Matter movement, I discovered that there is a long, complicated history involved with the movement. In the article written by Cosmopolitan, they were able to show a full timeline of events, and it all sadly started with the death and a hashtag. The death of Trayvon Martin, who was a young African American male, was shot by a white neighborhood patrolman by the name of George Zimmerman. This initiated the whole movement. After his verdict came back not guilty, many became upset and angry, especially three women by the name of Alicia, Opal, and Patrice. These women were the co-founders of the campaign and the ones who started the hashtag. The movement gained momentum after every tragic death of a black person by a police officer from the year 2013 to present day. The start of 2020 gave us hope that we would turn our country around for the better and make positive changes to our community. And while we have seen many changes throughout the year, they did not happen easily. After the death of George Floyd and the video being released to the public about a police officer kneeling on his neck while George Floyd screams out, "I can't breathe," it sparked the anger within many around the world, and they refused to let it slide. In the article called The Rocky Mountain Collagen by Serena Bettis, she discussed the timeline events after the death of George Floyd. Organized protests began all around the world in support of the damage done to the black community. Along with peaceful protests came riots, especially in the States. The day after Floyd's death caused an explosion in Minneapolis. Destruction of property, fires, and looting were taken to the next level. And while the three officers involved in his death were fired and charged for the crimes, that did not stop the protesters. The riots spread throughout the country, and destruction could be seen around every corner. While the riots and protests have died down since those initial months, the justice has yet to be served in its entirety. The future seems hopeful, though. An article written by Business Insider discusses some of the changes made due to the riots. Many states like New York and Minnesota have started to remove funding from police departments and put them into other departments like women's clinics, Planned Parenthood, and mental health facilities. By putting the money into those departments, they could help reform society and have people receive the help that they actually need. The target goal for every peaceful protest is to reform the police department and create justice for people of color and shed light on the cruel acts of our government. Though there are vast amounts of people with different opinions on the subject, I believe that we should all come together to fight against the discrimination and cruel treatment of people in our country.